What if I told you that right at this moment, as you watch this video, Saint Padre Pio is interceding for you in heaven? What if the very fact that you clicked on this video was not an accident, but divine providence leading you to receive the miracle you desperately need? My friends, you are about to witness something extraordinary. The stories you're going to hear in the next several minutes have been documented, verified, and witnessed by thousands. These are not fairy tales or wishful thinking. These are real miracles that happen to real people just like you. But here's what's even more incredible. Many of these miracles began the moment someone simply asked Padre Pio for help. Not after months of prayer, not after pilgrimages to Italy, but in minutes, sometimes in seconds. Before we dive deep into these miraculous accounts, I need you to do something. Hit that like button right here below this video. Share this with someone who needs a miracle in their life. And make sure you subscribe and ring that notification bell, because what I'm about to share with you could change your life forever. The testimonies you're about to hear come from ordinary people who found themselves in impossible situations: cancer diagnoses, financial ruin, broken families, lost hope. But something extraordinary happened when they called upon this humble Capuchin friar from Italy. Maria Santos from the Philippines had given up all hope. Her 7-year-old daughter had been declared brain dead after a terrible accident. The doctors had already suggested removing life support. But Maria's mother, a devout Catholic, whispered something in her ear that would change everything. "Ask Padre Pio," the elderly woman said. "Just ask him." That night, alone in the hospital chapel, Maria fell to her knees. She had never prayed to Padre Pio before. She didn't know much about him except that her mother claimed he performed miracles. Through her tears, she whispered a simple prayer. "Padre Pio, if you can hear me, please save my daughter. I believe you can help us." What happened next defies medical explanation. Within 3 hours, her daughter's brain scan showed activity that wasn't there before. The doctors called it impossible. By morning, the little girl had opened her eyes. Within a week, she was talking, walking, and completely healed. But was this really a miracle, or just a coincidence? Let me share with you what makes this story even more remarkable. Maria later discovered that at the exact moment she prayed to Padre Pio, thousands of miles away in Italy, other pilgrims at his shrine reported smelling his distinctive rose fragrance, a sign many believe indicates his presence and intercession. You might be thinking, this sounds too good to be true. That's exactly what Dr. Richard Castellano thought when he first heard about Padre Pio's healing powers. As a prominent surgeon in New York, Dr. Castellano built his career on facts, science, and empirical evidence. He had no time for what he called religious superstition. Until the day his own life hung in the balance, Dr. Castellano was diagnosed with an aggressive form of leukemia. His own colleagues told him he had less than 6 months to live. The irony wasn't lost on him. The man who had spent years saving lives couldn't save his own. His Italian grandmother, who had actually met Padre Pio in person decades earlier, begged him to pray to the saint. "Richard," she said with tears in her eyes, "I saw this man work miracles with my own eyes. Please, just ask him." Being a man of science, Dr. Castellano initially refused. But as his condition worsened and conventional treatments failed, desperation began to override his skepticism. On a particularly difficult night, alone in his hospital room, he decided to try something he had never done before. He prayed to Padre Pio. "I don't know if you're listening," he whispered into the darkness, "but if you can help me, I promise to dedicate my life to helping others understand that science and faith can work together." The next morning brought results that his medical team still cannot explain. His blood work showed dramatic improvements. His white cell count, which had been dangerously low, suddenly spiked to normal levels. The cancerous cells that had been multiplying rapidly began dying off at an unprecedented rate. Within 3 weeks, Dr. Castellano was in complete remission. But here's where the story gets even more extraordinary. Dr. Castellano began researching Padre Pio's life and discovered something that sent chills down his spine. The saint had actually predicted, decades before Dr. Castellano was even born, that he would one day heal a prominent doctor in America who would then become a bridge between science and faith. This prediction was documented in the archives at San Giovanni Rotondo, Padre Pio's hometown in Italy. Today, Dr. Castellano runs a medical mission that has treated over 50,000 patients worldwide, combining cutting-edge medicine with spiritual care. He often tells his patients, "Science heals the body, but faith heals the soul." If you're watching this video and thinking, "I wish I could have faith like that," let me tell you something important. You don't need perfect faith to receive a miracle. You just need to ask. Take a moment right here and leave a comment below. Tell us what miracle you need in your life. Don't worry about how impossible it seems. Others in our community will pray with you, and who knows, your testimony might be featured in our next video. But the stories don't stop there. What I'm about to tell you might challenge everything you think you know about how miracles work. Sarah Mitchell was a single mother of 3 from Texas. Her husband had left her with crushing debt and no way to support her children. She worked 2 jobs but still couldn't make ends meet. The bank was about to foreclose on her home, and she had no family to turn to. One evening, completely exhausted and at the end of her rope, Sarah collapsed on her kitchen floor and cried out, "God, I can't do this anymore. If you're really there, please send me help." Her 8-year-old daughter, Emma, found her there and said something that would change everything. "Mommy, why don't you ask Padre Pio? My friend at school says her grandma always prays to him when things are really bad." Sarah had never heard of Padre Pio, but she was willing to try anything. That night, she looked him up online, learned a simple prayer, and with her children gathered around her, she asked for his intercession. "Saint Padre Pio, we need a miracle. Please help us keep our home and find a way to survive." 3 days later, something extraordinary happened. Sarah received a phone call from a lawyer representing an estate. A distant relative she had never met had passed away and left her a substantial inheritance. The amount was exactly enough to pay off all her debts and secure her family's future. But here's the part that gave Sarah chills. The relative who left her the inheritance had died on September 23rd, the feast day of Saint Padre Pio. You might be asking yourself, how is this possible? How can a saint who died decades ago still be performing miracles today? The answer lies in understanding something profound about the communion of saints. Death doesn't end the story for those who die in God's grace. They continue to intercede for us, to pray for us, and to help us in ways that transcend our earthly understanding. But Padre Pio was special, even among the saints. During his lifetime, he experienced phenomena that defied natural explanation. The stigmata, the wounds of Christ, bilocation, being in 2 places at once, and the ability to read souls and predict the future. Let me share with you one of the most documented cases of bilocation that will leave you amazed. In 1942, during World War II, an American bomber pilot named John Thompson was flying a dangerous mission over Italy. His plane was severely damaged by enemy fire, and he was rapidly losing altitude. With his crew panicking and no way to reach safety, Thompson found himself praying desperately for help. Suddenly, a figure appeared in the cockpit, a bearded man in a brown habit who looked directly at Thompson and said, "Don't worry, my son. You will make it home safely." The mysterious figure placed his hands on the controls, and miraculously, the damaged plane began to respond. Thompson was able to guide the aircraft to a safe landing at an Allied base. Years later, after the war ended, Thompson visited Italy as a tourist. When he stopped at the monastery of San Giovanni Rotondo, he saw a photograph on the wall and immediately recognized the man who had appeared in his cockpit. It was Padre Pio. The remarkable thing is that on the exact date and time when Thompson saw Padre Pio in his aircraft, dozens of witnesses confirmed that the saint was simultaneously celebrating Mass in his monastery hundreds of miles away. This wasn't the only documented case of Padre Pio's bilocation. There are over 600 recorded instances of people seeing him in distant locations, while others verified his presence at the monastery. But what does this mean for you today? It means that distance doesn't matter when you call upon Padre Pio. Geography is irrelevant. Time zones don't apply. Whether you're in New York or Nigeria, London or Lima, his intercession is available to you right at this moment. Speaking of right at this moment, I want you to pause and really consider why you're watching this video. What brought you here? What situation in your life needs divine intervention? Before we continue with more miraculous testimonies, take a second to hit that share button and send this video to someone who needs encouragement. Your simple act of sharing might be the miracle someone else has been praying for. And while you're at it, subscribe to our channel and ring that notification bell. We post new miracle stories and spiritual content every week, and you won't want to miss what's coming next. Now, let me tell you about a miracle that happened just last year, proving that Padre Pio's intercession is as powerful today as it was decades ago. Jessica Rodriguez was a successful businesswoman in Miami until the pandemic destroyed her company. She lost everything: her business, her savings, her home. At 45 years old, she found herself living in her car with nowhere to turn. One night, parked outside a Catholic church, she noticed an elderly man walking by. He knocked on her window and handed her a small prayer card with Padre Pio's image on it. "Pray to him," the man said simply. "He never ignores someone in real need." Before Jessica could ask any questions, the man had disappeared into the darkness. She looked at the prayer card and, feeling foolish but desperate, decided to pray. "Saint Padre Pio," she whispered, "I don't know you, but this man said you help people. I need help. I need a job, a place to live, and hope for tomorrow." The next morning, Jessica's phone rang. It was a business contact she hadn't spoken to in over a year. The woman explained that she had thought of Jessica out of nowhere and wanted to offer her a position with her company. The job came with a signing bonus large enough for Jessica to get an apartment and start over, but that's not the end of the story. When Jessica tried to find the elderly man who had given her the prayer card, she discovered something that gave her chills. The church pastor told her that no elderly man matching that description lived in the area or attended their parish. Several parishioners suggested that Jessica might have encountered Padre Pio himself, appearing to help her in her moment of greatest need. Whether it was the saint himself or simply his intercession working through a mysterious stranger, Jessica's life was completely transformed. Today, she runs a non-profit organization helping other women rebuild their lives after financial disasters. This brings up an important question. How do you properly ask for Padre Pio's intercession? Is there a special formula or specific words you need to use? The beautiful truth is that Padre Pio responds to simple, heartfelt prayers. You don't need elaborate rituals or perfect theology. You just need to speak to him as you would speak to a beloved grandfather, with honesty, humility, and trust. But perhaps the most compelling evidence of Padre Pio's continued intercession comes from the healing miracles that continue to occur at his tomb and through his prayers worldwide. Roberto Facenda was born with a rare genetic disorder that left him completely blind. Doctors told his parents that there was no cure and no treatment. Roberto would never see the faces of his loved ones, never witness a sunset, never read a book with his own eyes. When Roberto turned 16, his grandmother took him on a pilgrimage to San Giovanni Rotondo, the town where Padre Pio lived and died. At the saint's tomb, she placed Roberto's hands on the marble surface and prayed with a fervor that moved everyone around them to tears. "Padre Pio," she cried, "this is my grandson. You had the wounds of Christ in your hands. Please use those blessed hands to touch his eyes and give him sight." Nothing happened immediately. Roberto and his grandmother returned home to Brazil disappointed but not defeated. They continued to pray to Padre Pio every day, asking for his intercession. 3 months later, Roberto woke up and could see. Not partially, not gradually, completely. Medical experts who examined him could find no explanation. The genetic defect that had caused his blindness was still present in his DNA, yet somehow, his brain was now receiving and processing visual information perfectly. The doctors called it medically impossible. Roberto's family called it a miracle. Today, Roberto is a successful artist whose paintings are displayed in galleries across South America. Each painting includes a small image of Padre Pio somewhere in the composition, his way of giving credit where credit is due. But you don't have to travel to Italy to receive Padre Pio's help. Miracles are happening right where you are, right at this moment. What would you ask Padre Pio to heal in your life if you truly believed he could do it? Physical illness, emotional wounds, broken relationships, financial problems? I want you to write your prayer request in the comments below. Be specific, be bold. Remember, we're talking about a saint who bore the wounds of Christ and performed miracles that amazed even skeptics. Others in our community will see your comment and pray with you. Sometimes the combined prayers of believers create a spiritual momentum that can move mountains. But let me share with you one more story that demonstrates just how personal and specific Padre Pio's care can be. Anna Kowalski was a Polish immigrant living in Chicago, struggling to learn English and support her family. Her husband worked construction during the day, and she cleaned office buildings at night. Despite their hard work, they could barely afford rent and groceries. Anna's greatest worry was her 5-year-old son, Michael, who had been born with a severe speech impediment. He could barely communicate, and other children at school had begun to tease him mercilessly. The speech therapy they desperately needed was far beyond their financial means. One evening, while cleaning an office building, Anna discovered a book about Padre Pio that someone had left behind. She couldn't read English well, but the pictures told a story of a holy man who helped people in need. That night, she knelt beside her son's bed and prayed in broken English mixed with Polish. "Padre Pio, you help people, yes? My boy, he cannot speak good. Other children, they laugh. Please, you help him talk like normal boy." The next day, something unprecedented happened at Michael's school. His teacher, Mrs. Henderson, had taught kindergarten for 25 years and had never experienced anything like it. Michael, who had barely been able to string 2 words together, suddenly began speaking in complete sentences. Not only that, but his pronunciation was perfect, and his vocabulary seemed to have expanded overnight. When Mrs. Henderson called Anna to discuss this dramatic improvement, Anna could barely contain her excitement. Through tears of joy, she explained about her prayer to Padre Pio. Mrs. Henderson, who was Protestant and had never heard of Padre Pio, was initially skeptical, but she couldn't deny what she had witnessed with her own eyes. She even noted in Michael's school record that his speech improvement was medically and educationally inexplicable. Years later, Michael became a successful lawyer and public speaker. He often tells audiences that his career in communication began with a miracle from a saint he had never heard of, but who apparently knew exactly what he needed. This story illustrates something crucial about Padre Pio's intercession. He doesn't just perform generic miracles, he provides exactly what each person needs, when they need it, in ways that are perfectly tailored to their specific situation. But how can you increase your faith and confidence when asking for Padre Pio's help? What if you're struggling with doubt? Father Michael Davidson was a young priest going through a crisis of faith. He had entered the seminary full of zeal and certainty, but after 3 years of ministry, he found himself questioning everything he believed. The suffering he witnessed daily, sick children, broken families, tragic accidents, made him wonder if God really cared about human pain. He was seriously considering leaving the priesthood. During this dark period, an older priest suggested that Father Davidson read about Padre Pio. "If anyone can restore your faith in God's active presence in the world," the priest said, "it's this saint." Father Davidson was skeptical, but desperate enough to try anything. He began reading about Padre Pio's life and ministry, focusing especially on the documented healing miracles. Still struggling with doubt, Father Davidson decided to test Padre Pio's intercession in a very specific way. He was scheduled to visit a terminally ill parishioner, 8-year-old Tommy Martinez, who was dying of leukemia. The doctors had given up hope, and Tommy's parents were making funeral arrangements. Before entering Tommy's hospital room, Father Davidson prayed silently. "Padre Pio, if you're really there, if miracles really happen, please give me a sign. Help this little boy. Show me that God still works miracles today." What happened next changed Father Davidson's life forever. As he entered the room, Tommy, who had been unconscious for days, suddenly opened his eyes and smiled. "Father Mike," he said with more energy than he had shown in weeks, "I had the most amazing dream. There was a man with marks on his hands who told me I was going to get better. He said to tell you that your prayers are heard and your ministry is important." Tommy went on to describe the man in his dream in perfect detail, a description that matched Padre Pio exactly, even though Tommy had never seen a picture of the saint. Within a week, Tommy's cancer went into complete remission. Today, 15 years later, he's a healthy young man studying to become a doctor. Father Davidson never struggled with doubt again. He's now a Monsignor who has written 3 books about modern miracles and travels the world sharing testimonies of God's active presence in our lives. The lesson here is powerful. Even if you're struggling with doubt, even if your faith feels weak, you can still ask for Padre Pio's intercession. He specializes in helping people whose faith needs strengthening. Now let me ask you something important. As you've been listening to these stories, what's been going through your mind? Are you thinking about a situation in your own life that seems impossible to resolve? Take a moment right here to like this video if these testimonies are encouraging your heart, and I want you to share this video with someone who needs to hear these stories. Sometimes the miracle someone needs starts with simply learning that miracles are still possible. We're approaching the most important part of our time together, where I'm going to show you exactly how to ask for Padre Pio's intercession in your own life. Everything you've heard so far has been leading to this moment. These weren't just inspiring stories to make you feel good. They were testimonies to show you that the same power that healed Maria's daughter, saved Dr. Castellano's life, and restored Roberto's sight is available to you right at this moment. But you might be wondering, how do I actually pray to Padre Pio? What words should I use? Is there a special technique? The beautiful truth is that Padre Pio responds to sincere hearts, not perfect prayers. He spent his earthly life helping ordinary people with extraordinary problems, and that hasn't changed. Here's a simple but powerful way to ask for his intercession. Start by acknowledging who he is. Saint Padre Pio, beloved son of Saint Francis, you bore the wounds of Christ and spent your life serving others. Then, tell him exactly what you need. Be specific. Don't just say, "Help me." Tell him precisely what kind of help you need. Remember Roberto's grandmother, who asked specifically for her grandson's sight to be restored. Next, express your faith in his intercession. I believe that you can intercede for me before the throne of God. Finally, commit to sharing your testimony. When this miracle happens, I promise to give glory to God and share this testimony with others. But here's something even more important than the words you use, the condition of your heart when you pray. Padre Pio always emphasized that God looks at the heart, not the eloquence of our prayers. Come to him with humility, acknowledging that you need help. Come with hope, believing that miracles are still possible. Come with love, remembering that this saint dedicated his life to serving God and helping others. Let me share one final story that demonstrates the incredible intimacy and care with which Padre Pio responds to our prayers. Catherine Williams was a nurse in London who had given her entire life to caring for others. At 62, after 4 decades of service, she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. The cruel irony wasn't lost on her. The woman who had spent her career helping people maintain their health was now losing her most precious possession, her mind. As her condition deteriorated, Catherine's daughter, Helen, watched in heartbreak as her brilliant, caring mother gradually forgot the faces of her loved ones and the memories that had defined her life. One evening, in desperation, Helen knelt beside her mother's bed and prayed to Padre Pio with raw honesty. "I don't understand why this is happening to such a good woman. She spent her life helping others. If you can hear me, please don't let her forget who she is. Please don't let her forget that she is loved." That night, Catherine had the first peaceful sleep she'd experienced in months. When she woke up the next morning, something remarkable had happened. Her confusion had lifted like morning fog. She looked at Helen with complete recognition and said, "Darling, I've been having such strange dreams, but I feel clear now. There was a man with wounded hands who told me that every act of love I performed in my nursing career was a prayer, and that God would honor those prayers by giving me moments of clarity when I need them most." From that day forward, while Catherine's Alzheimer's continued to progress, she experienced what doctors called impossible periods of complete lucidity. These moments always seemed to coincide with important family events, birthdays, holidays, and milestones, allowing her to be fully present for the people she loved. The medical team caring for Catherine had never seen anything like it. Alzheimer's doesn't work that way. It doesn't pause for special occasions or grant temporary reprieves, but somehow, Catherine's did. Helen believes that Padre Pio interceded to give her mother the gift of precious moments of connection, allowing her to say goodbye with dignity and love when the time came. Catherine passed away peacefully 2 years later, surrounded by family during one of her moments of complete clarity. Her last words were, "Thank you, Padre Pio, for letting me remember love." This story reveals something profound about how Padre Pio's intercession works. Sometimes the miracle isn't the complete elimination of a problem. Sometimes it's the grace to handle that problem with dignity, peace, and love. Your miracle might be instant healing. It might be financial provision. It might be the restoration of a broken relationship. Or it might be the strength to endure, the peace to accept, or the wisdom to understand. The important thing is to ask, to believe, to trust that this humble friar from Italy, who bore the wounds of Christ and dedicated his life to serving others, is still serving, still caring, still interceding for people like you and me. Your miracle begins now. As we come to the end of our time together, I want you to understand something crucial. Your miracle has already begun. The very fact that you've watched this entire video, that these stories have touched your heart, that you're feeling hope stirring within you, that's already the beginning of God working in your life through Padre Pio's intercession. But don't let this be the end. Let this be the beginning. Right after you finish watching this video, find a quiet moment and pray to Saint Padre Pio. Tell him about your situation. Ask for his intercession. Be specific about what you need, but also be open to receiving what God knows you need most. Then, pay attention. Miracles often begin with small signs, a phone call you weren't expecting, a conversation that opens a new door, a sense of peace about a situation that had been causing you anxiety, or strength you didn't know you had. Document what happens. Keep a journal of answered prayers, no matter how small they might seem. You might be amazed at the pattern of grace that begins to emerge in your life. And here's something incredibly important. When your miracle happens, and I say when, not if, come back and share your testimony in the comments. Your story might be the encouragement someone else needs to believe that miracles are still possible. Before you go, I need you to do 3 things that will help us reach more people with these testimonies of hope. First, hit that like button right here below the video. This tells the algorithm that this content is valuable and helps us reach more people who need to hear these stories. Second, subscribe to our channel and ring that notification bell. We post new miracle testimonies and spiritual content every week, and you won't want to miss the incredible stories we have planned. Third, and most importantly, Share this video with someone who needs a miracle in their life. Send it to that friend who's going through a difficult time, that family member who's lost hope, that coworker who's facing an impossible situation. Your simple act of sharing might be the beginning of their miracle story. Remember, Saint Padre Pio spent his earthly life helping people find God's love in their darkest moments. He's still doing that today, through stories like these, through your prayers, and through the miracles that are about to unfold in your life. Your miracle doesn't start tomorrow. It doesn't start when you feel more worthy, or when your faith is stronger. Your miracle starts right at this moment, as you close your eyes and whisper, "Saint Padre Pio, please pray for me." The saints are praying, heaven is listening, and your miracle is on its way. Until we meet again, may the peace and blessings of Saint Padre Pio be with you always. And when your miracle happens, remember to give glory to God and share your testimony with others. Because in a world that often feels hopeless, your miracle might be exactly what someone else needs to believe again. Go forward in faith, hope, and love. Your miracle journey begins right here. Saint Padre Pio, pray for us.